Welcome back to Unlocking Your More podcast with Janna Holterman. Today we're going to be talking about bicycle riding, and you're going to be like, what the fuck? But so bear with me. Today we're going to be diving into reflections. Now, reflections in the intuition neuroscience world that I live in is basically your brain, your higher self, and source, God, the universe, whatever you choose to, higher power you choose to believe in. And if you don't choose to believe in one, you probably wouldn't be here, but just go with your higher self. Okay, so they're showing you where you are out of alignment in some belief system within your subconscious brain. So ultimately, our higher selves, our soul, source, God, universe, I'm just going to use source because that's what I normally use, always wants us to be learning and growing and basically moving closer to our soul aligned path. So each of us are on this planet with a specific purpose, and each of our purposes are different. You know, some people, it literally could be to change the world by inventing the best, car laser tracking function. Who knows? Or it could be to be the best parent that they could be and raise kids that are just truly the best ever, right? Or, it could be to help people with their self-confidence or self-belief. There's so many different things, right? But each of us came to this planet with a soul growth path, a purpose that our soul was like, we want you to learn this. And our soul's higher self, source, cannot interfere with our free will. So there is, because of this rule of we have free will, which means we always get to choose. So we can ignore all of the obstacles, all of these quote-unquote reflections that are happening to us. We can ignore them. We can pretend that they don't exist and carry on just with life. And that would be totally fine because we have free will. But because we have that free will, it would be nice sometimes if we didn't, because then they could just be like, hey, stupid, there is, this problem. You need to see it, right? If we could just have billboards that would point out all of the areas that we need to work on and what's going to actually shift and help us grow the most so that we can actually start living the life that we want to live and feel fulfilled and, make a difference, all that. Wouldn't that be great? I don't know, right? And so they can't do that. So the only way that they can kind of show us where imbalances are, basically that could be emotional imbalances, which are generally paired with some sort of limiting belief system that we have had for decades, right? Most of our belief systems that are running the show, working on autopilot for us, were created between the ages of 0 and 7 years old. So all of those things that you picked up that your parents were doing, your teachers were doing, your grandparents or whoever was doing, and you were like, this is the way that, I should live life. And when you look at your parents, you're like, okay, I love them and all, but do I really want to be thinking the way that they think? Maybe not, right? So we are now grown-ass adults having all kinds of obstacles that are happening in our life. And those obstacles, those things that we get emotional about, and we generally get more emotional than would be reasonable. Because if we're okay, a normal person handling this situation probably wouldn't get this emotional. That's generally an indicator of, hey, there's something that's going on. We have an emotional imbalance that is triggered because of this situation. This is a place to look in. And I'll give you an example in a minute, but this is basically how our higher self helps guide us on, where is the area, the imbalance that needs to be currently solved, right? we're constantly growing and we're constantly evolving. And the things that you were learning how to do 5 years ago, like you've mastered those, like you got that down, like you've probably, learned how to communicate effectively or try to, avoid unnecessary confrontation or, my background being nursing, like you learn how to interact with people who are in vulnerable and emotional states and be able to support them. Like, when I started nursing, I didn't know how to do that. That was something that I learned how to do. And we are constantly learning and growing, even if you're not giving yourself credit for it. So our current lessons, our current things that our higher self is like, hey, they've gotten this far. This is fantastic. Like, the next step is for them to rewire this belief system, which is going to help them feel like they're making a bigger impact and feel like their work matters more. Amazing. We want to feel that way, right? So we have this new or a series of obstacles that start to show up, and you're kind of like, what the fuck? Why is everything exploding all of a sudden? Like, what? Everything was so good, and now the other shoe dropped and everything is exploding. It's exploding for a reason. It is exploding for your benefit, I promise you, even if it feels like trash. And you can recognize and validate the fact that it feels like trash while also realizing that it is possible, that it is for your benefit, and is going to help you grow. So my example of this was, 2 weekends ago now, was on my birthday trip. We went to Jupiter, Florida. We went to this park. We were gonna go kayaking. The water looked a little sketch, and it was like alligator mating season. So we're like, maybe we shouldn't go kayaking through this alligator infested water. So we're like, change of plans. They had like trails, so we're like, okay, let's like rent bikes and go on the bike trail. Cool, right? So we went and we rent bikes. Definitely were not the best bikes, but that's what you get for $20. And so my bike was a little poor, and there was a bike, like, sometimes my intuition works in like, I just like focus, like my attention will go to the thing that I'm supposed to like pay attention to. So my attention went to this other bike that was like in the middle of like, they had a row of bikes, and it was in the middle of the row of bikes, and I'm like, that's the bike I'm supposed to work with. But then John like grabbed a bike that was too short for him, that was like my height. So then he was like, oh, here, take this one. Did not grab the one that I knew that I was supposed to grab. Anyway, lesson learned, because the bike that I ended up taking, it was appropriately heighted for me, but like the gears were not doing great. So like I'm like pedaling hard, and I'm like barely keeping up with John as he's biking. And, at the beginning, I'm like, I'm doing good. I'm going along. And it's like a nature trail. There's things to look at. I'm trying to like enjoy the ambiance, right? Like I saw some animals. I saw a tortoise, some bunny rabbits, some birds. I'm like, I'm trying to enjoy the thing. But like 5 minutes into our biking experience, John is like gone. He's so far ahead of me. And I'm like, dude. So at first I was like, oh, okay, like, well, that's annoying, but like, and then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna bike really, really, really fast. So I like bike so fast, and I'm going so slowly, even though my legs are going at full speed. I'm going as hard as I can, and like this bike is like not responding very well. Anyway, I like finally catch up with him, and I'm like, oh, hey, can you like ride a little slower? Like, I'm struggling with my bike, and like, let's just enjoy the scenery, enjoy the nature. We're here on a nature bike ride. We're not here for like Tour de France. And so he's like, oh yeah, sure, no problem. Agrees. Fantastic, right? Like, fantastic. He agrees. Great. 30 seconds later, he is so far ahead of me again. And now I'm like really annoyed. Like, it literally went from like mild, like 0 to 1, then to a 1 out of 10 of annoyance scale, and then I'm like 10 out of 10 annoyed. I'm like, what the fuck, dude? Like, I literally told you that my bike was not working, and it's like my birthday trip, and we're supposed to be doing this together. And so I like, because I've been so in tune with myself, and because I'm so in tune with my emotions, I was like, whoa, I just literally went from like 0 to like 10 out of 10 on the level of emotional scale, like at the drop of a hat. And this is when you want to pay attention. This is when you want to notice. And a lot of the times when you start with this, don't worry, you won't notice until after the fact. But the more you practice, you're going to start noticing, whoa, like a normal person wouldn't get this level of emotional about the situation. That's my cue. That's my trigger of like, something else is going on. So when I look at reflections, especially in situations like this, what ends up happening is the area of our life that we pay the most attention to is the area that all of the obstacles are going to pop up. All of the reflections, all of the I'm out of alignment cues are going to pop up in the areas of life we pay the most attention to. Obviously, my relationship is an area of life that is high value, right? Like that's something that I pay attention to. So therefore, pops up in my relationship. So love John. He is an amazing man, but he does reflect a lot of things back to me because our relationships, when we pay attention and we focus on them, like our partners can be a massive mirror. And again, similar things with if you are in a like entrepreneurship or you choose to step into that kind of role, your business is going to hold up a massive mirror of all of your fears and insecurities because it's something that is a high value area. And you have said to, the world that I want to step into this next level version of myself. I want to grow. I want to help people in this capacity. And if you've never done that before, you don't necessarily have the skills and the tools to be able to handle that level of visibility, that level of, holding the space for those people, all these things. So our nervous system, our emotions, our thoughts all have to shift and change to be able to sustainably and effectively handle what we have asked for. And this is anything, right? Like it doesn't have to be a business. It could literally be a health and wellness journey, or, maybe it is getting to the point of wanting a relationship. If you don't have a relationship and you're like, I want a really high quality partner, we have to create safety in our nervous system to be able to do that. We have to process and heal some of the negative emotions that are holding us back from that, and that comes along with the brain reprogramming. We have to believe it's possible, and we also have to see how like we're the best freaking partner ever, and we have to believe that so that other people will see that in us too. And so anyway, back to the bicycling. Basically, right, like the moment of my response to this situation doesn't really match the situation and like how I would say a normal person, quote unquote, would respond to this, right? It would be like, you'd be like, oh yeah, that's like kind of mildly annoying, but it's like level 10 annoyance. Probably not actually because of this situation. It's probably something under the surface that is using this as a, hey, look at me, pay attention to me kind of moment. So how do we start actually figuring this out? If we have intuition, amazing, we can kind of dive in and pull it from intuition, but most people don't have trained intuition. We have natural intuition, things that like come through randomly. But if you don't have trained intuition, how do we start to figure this out? Okay, so what is my perception of that situation is how we would dive into it. So with the biking situation, my perception is that like he's leaving me behind. I'm like, okay, well, why am I annoyed right now? And so I have emotional processing tools. So I like brought the level of annoyance and the emotion down with my emotional processing tools. And then I start looking at it. I started looking into the situation and being like, okay, what is my perception? My perception is he's leaving me behind. Okay. So I'm feeling left behind. And sometimes just from that, it can be like an aha moment of like, oh, there's this other area that I feel left behind. Sometimes we have to dig a little bit deeper. And when we look into reflections, we're looking into the area of life that started it. So the area of life that it's showing up, that reflection, the mirror, that like, hey, something is happening signal is never the area of life that it's actually stemming from. So for this situation, the area of life that it's showing up like John being my partner, being my reflector. We live together, so he's in the family area. If we were just dating, it would be social. But so we live together, so it's the family area of life. So it's showing up in the family area of life, which means it's got to be in another area of life. So we have mental, we have physical, we have spiritual, which can be intuition, those kinds of things, connection to a higher power, that kind of thing too as well. It could be like career, it can be financial, and it could be social, passion, hobby. So those are all the different areas of life. So we look at these other areas of life, and this has been something that's been an ongoing thing for me, especially like leading up to my birthday. I mean, I have some really amazing friends, but my perception is that I don't have enough friends. And then, some of my friends they have kids, they have school, they have all these things that they're doing, which means obviously their lives are very busy, and my life is very busy with working and my business and everything that's happening. So my perception in my social area is that I'm not getting invited to as many things as I would like to do, so I'm not doing as much socially that I would like to do, and so I do feel left behind socially. So it actually came through pretty quickly when I was like, oh, I'm feeling left behind by John. I'm like, okay, well, what area of my life am I feeling left behind? Oh, I'm definitely feeling left behind socially. And then I used my intuition to kind of like check in. As soon as I had that aha moment of, oh, I'm feeling left behind socially, immediately the emotions went from that level 10 to like nothing. Like it completely deflates when you get to the root issue, not the surface level issue. And this is why understanding this, it's totally different than anything anybody else will really tell you, unless they like do this kind of work. But that you've gotten to the root because it immediately, like, you feel a million times better, and you're like, oh yeah, that totally checks out, that makes sense. And this is why I want you to understand this and to really like take this to heart and start practicing it, because think about how much this could like save a relationship, whether it be an intimate relationship or a friendship or a family relationship. Because old me, or like the standard thing would be to blame John, would be to yell at him, to make him, to force him to slow down, to come back to me, to make him the problem. And he was just an actor in my brain, right? Like he was just playing the part that he needed to open my awareness to see this imbalance in my life so that I could shift it and do that. So literally we're on this bicycle ride, and it was a long bicycle ride, so I was able to do all of this while bicycling. And the second half, like it was like a there and back kind of boat bicycle ride. So I shifted this, I figured out the root cause, and then I started like thinking of things that I can do to be more social, and like made plans, because I wasn't biking and texting, but I like made plans to reach out to certain people, and kind of reminded myself that I did have like a birthday celebration set up with some of my good friends. Like I kind of was like, oh, here's all the evidence that I'm not being left behind socially. And that's one of the best ways for my brain is to prove it wrong. So it's like my perception is, my subconscious brain is feeling that I am left behind socially. How is that not true? Like, find all the evidence that that's not true, and then also we can take action to be like, oh, well, I'm going to make more social events to prove to myself that I'm not left behind socially, right? So I reframed the belief system. I did a little bit of the emotional processing of that like frustration, annoyance, and then I made a plan to take action to actually create the social situations to then really reinforce that I'm not left behind socially. Here's the thing. On the way back in the bike trip, he slowed right down. The last like quarter of the trip, he was bicycling the same speed as me. And so other than my like first time that I like was like, dude, bike the same speed as me, I didn't say a word to him. I completely shifted and changed his behavior because I figured out the root of the belief system, and he no longer had to be an actor in my situation to get me to see it. Because I saw it, I shifted it. I figured out the root. I had the aha moment. I was no longer pissed off because I knew exactly what the root cause was. I solved that. I changed the belief system. I processed the emotion and I created a solution, and then it changed his behavior without me having to say anything. Learning this at such a deep level will literally change every single relationship in your life and make you so much less irritable, because you're like, oh, this is literally just this. I'm not even mad about this. Like, it's just a perception issue where it's like, oh, this has nothing to do with this. Like, the reason I'm upset has to do with something completely else. So I feel like I don't get upset with other people. I don't get frustrated with other people, because as soon as I start getting frustrated with other people, I'm like, wait a minute. There's a reason that this is happening, and then I can go and I can shift it so fast, and I have this deeper understanding of them just playing the role. Like, they were just the actors in the scenario. They were given a script to play a role, and they did it perfectly. And it pissed me off for a moment, but then I was able to figure out why I was pissed off. And when I figured out the why, it shifted everything. Literally understanding what a reflection is and how to start shifting it changes so much. I dive a lot deeper into this in the Made for More membership if you want to kind of understand more about reflections. And I also do a lot of, especially the deeper, heavier, like stronger emotional reflections where like my life is imploding, or, like I have like a toxic coworker or spouse or all these things. Like, those are the situations that I would say, like, yeah, let's book a one-on-one session and actually get to the root of this so you can completely shift it. And if you keep up with the brain reprogramming and the new belief systems, that person's behavior will change for good, right? If we slide back, it'll come back up, because it's like, oh, you didn't continue with that. That's another piece of awareness. But there's just so much goodness and so much like great things that can come out of all these things that trigger us. So it's a new way of thinking about it. Let me know how it goes.